The Wind Rises, maybe the penultimate film of the great Hayao Miyazaki, opens with this quote from French poet Paul Valéry. It comes from his 1920 poem La Cimetière Marin, or The Graveyard by the Sea. It's Miyazaki's only film taking place in the real world, a biopic telling the story of aeronautical engineer Horikoshi Jiro leading up to his creation of the World War II fighter jet, the Zero. Jiro makes friends, falls in love, and creates what was at the time the ultimate airplane. While on paper it's an accurate summary of the film, that's not what The Wind Rises is concerned with, and that's what separates it from other biopics. It's not a movie about the creation of the Zero, it's a movie about dreams, both in the sense of aspirations for the future and images while we sleep, and the cost of those dreams. The film opens in a riveting dream sequence, showing Jiro's desire to create the beautiful miracle of flight. Throughout The Wind Rises, he pursues this dream, and the two worlds bleed together, just as Jiro's head is literally in the clouds. Miyazaki shows this blending of reality and dream through formalistic, subjective visuals and a dreamy soundscape created primarily by the human mouth. As the film goes on, we realize this dream is impossible.
飛行機は美しくも呪われた夢だ。大空は皆飲み込んでしまう。
Says Jiro's idol, airplane engineer Giovanni Caproni in a dream. The elegance of Jiro's plane slicing through the air of his dream world, undercut and corrupted by its eventual and inevitable destructive purpose. Just as the breeze cuts through our surroundings, flowing around us, in spite of us, change is inevitable. The wind is a reflection of the ever-changing, ever-unpredictable chronology of our lives, and the consequences that ensue. Just as the wind may softly lift the hat off your head, it may also bring down homes and create destruction. A life could be defined by what is predictable, like the success of Jiro's plane, and what is unpredictable, like a sudden earthquake. Yet early on, we are shown one of the film's main themes, that any given event can have both positive and negative consequences. The future is always ambiguous. The devastating Kanto earthquake of 1923, although destructive, brings Jiro and his future wife, Naoko, together. The first point of contact between the two is when the hat is blown off Jiro's head. The wind, foreshadowing and representing the catastrophic change to come. A moment of both horror and beauty, like Jiro's planes. This brings us back to The Graveyard by the Sea. This poem is framed from the point of view of Valéry, staring out into an eternal ocean, meditating on the nature of mortality in the face of infinity. He realizes that change is both an inevitable and necessary characteristic of his being. He invokes the ancient philosopher Zeno of Elea and his famous paradoxes. Zeno believed movement to be an illusion. An arrow shot from a bow cannot be in motion, because at any given moment in time, it is still, and therefore can be considered as such. Valéry rejects this idea, stating, Zeno, Zeno, cruel philosopher Zeno, have you then pierced me with your feathered arrow that hums and flies, yet does not fly? There is no change without consequence, and no consequence without change. This is the fundamental flaw of Jiro's dream. Although his planes are magnificent in isolation, they are warped into killing machines, and are forever tied to their destruction. These two halves are inseparable. The same idea is mirrored in Naoko's story. Jiro and Naoko reunite for the first time after the earthquake many years later and fall in love. Jiro asks for her hand in marriage, and Naoko tells him that she is sick with tuberculosis and will agree to marry him once she gets better. In the following months, her condition worsens, and the couple decide to marry and spend whatever time they have left together. Jiro works right up until the end, leaving his wife to spend her days alone. Although his image of her is one of happiness, she knows it will not last. Accepting her death, Naoko goes to a sanitarium to die, leaving Jiro. This was Naoko's way of preserving her beauty in the eyes of her husband, not allowing it to be corrupted like his airplanes. As Jiro's Zero is tested, proving itself a huge success, he looks to the north, distracted. All other sound is drowned out by a cool breeze. His wife is dead. The ever-changing chronology of our lives, embodied. Yet although this idea is bleak, it is also reassuring. The wind is rising. We must try to live, Valéry writes. In spite of it all, we must try to live. Caproni asks Jiro in a dream,
君はピラミッドのある世界とピラミッドのない世界とどちらが好きかね?
Is creation in any way, is acting in any way worthwhile if the consequences can be so far-reaching and complex? Caproni chooses pyramids. In Jiro's final dream, and the final moments of the film, he sees both the consequences of his choices and the undeniable elegance. That's the great irony of The Wind Rises, and of all of Miyazaki's work. Despite the death and destruction being depicted, the animation is nonetheless gorgeous, once again blending beauty with horror. Naoko tells Jiro from the afterlife that he must live, even in the face of this complex and opaque world. Every moment exists both in beautiful isolation and as part of a more conflicting whole. Happiness will lead to sorrow, and chaos may breed love. The only constant is the wind, candid and impersonal, like Valéry's eternal sea, always returning to a neutral state. In his only biopic, Miyazaki has realized that our life boils down to this conflict between beauty and consequence, a moment and a life, and as such, it truly feels human.